There's a special kind of cold that hits you when you realize your own family is the predator. My name is Astrid Collins. For my entire life, I was the shadow that paid for my brother's spotlight. I lived in the basement. I paid for his training. But I just found out they didn't just take my paychecks. They took my name, my identity, my future. They buried me in debt to fund his dream, thinking I was too weak to fight back. They forgot one thing: the person in the shadows sees everything. And now I'm going to use it all to get my life back. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We always appreciate the time you spend here with us. I trace the condensation on the glass of my apartment window. It's a small space, just one bedroom, but the view from the 12th floor makes me feel like I can finally breathe. Down there, the city hums, but up here, it's quiet. Quiet is a luxury I had to fight for, a commodity I was never offered growing up. I'm Astrid Collins, 28 years old, and for the last decade, I've been meticulously building a life my family can't touch. My job at the logistics firm is demanding a world of spreadsheets and timelines that organizes the chaos of freight, and I'm good at it. It's steady. It pays for this apartment, for my utilities, for the car I bought myself. But self-reliance carries its own weight. The stress is a constant low-grade hum beneath my skin, a persistent tension in my jaw. It's the stress of knowing there is no safety net. I am my own safety net, and it's stretched thin. My entire life has been lived in the shadow of a stadium light, or rather the shadow of my brother Caleb, the prodigy, the golden boy. 2 years younger than me, but he's always been the sun our family orbits. Our childhood home wasn't a home, it was a training facility, a shrine to his potential. While Caleb got the master bedroom, the one with the sunlight and the new furniture, I was relegated to the basement. It was a damp, windowless room with concrete walls that sweated in the summer. The smell of mildew and laundry detergent is my primary childhood memory. Every night I'd fall asleep to the sounds from the backyard, the rhythmic thwack of Caleb's bat hitting the ball in the expensive batting cage, the snap of a leather glove, my father's booming encouragement. "That's it, son. Drive it, drive it." My sacrifices were simply expected. My paycheck from the diner I worked at through high school, it wasn't mine. It was family money, which meant it went directly into the Caleb Fund. New cleats, private coaching, tournament fees across the state. My mother Lorraine was the high priestess of his cult. Her eyes, emotionally distant and perpetually calculating, never saw me. They only scanned for Caleb's stats, his future draft potential. I remember my high school graduation. I graduated with honors, a full academic scholarship to the state university in my hand. I stood on the lawn holding my diploma and watched my parents pose for an hour of photos with Caleb. Caleb in his Letterman jacket holding a bat. "This is a big day for the family," my father Richard had said, clapping Caleb on the back. "This scholarship of yours, Astrid, it's a real help, frees up our resources for the draft preparation." They weren't just supportive parents, they were obsessive. And their obsession wasn't just favoritism, it was a kind of moral rot that hollowed everything out. My invisibility was their strategy. If I had no needs, I couldn't be a burden. If I had no achievements, I couldn't be a distraction. That's why this small apartment, this quiet life, is my fortress. But a fortress implies a state of siege. The tension headache that's been my constant companion for weeks tightens its grip. It's tangled up with the other stress, the one I haven't told a soul about. The appointment. The one I've been dreading for a month, the one my doctor in a kind voice insisted was critical. Dr. Harris, oncology. A word that hangs in the air of my clean apartment like smoke. Tomorrow, 10:00 a.m. I've structured my whole week around it. Taken the day off work, moved money from my meager savings to cover the complex copay. I've spent nights staring at the ceiling, rehearsing how I will walk into that terrifying sterile room alone. My phone buzzes on the kitchen counter, the vibration so violent it sounds like an alarm shattering the quiet. I see the name and my stomach plummets. Caleb. I should decline it. I should throw the phone against the wall, but 28 years of conditioning is a heavy chain. I swipe to accept. Astrid. His voice isn't a greeting, it's a command. No hello, no how are you. Just pure, undiluted entitlement. I need you to do something. I wait, my breath held tight in my chest. I've got a private showcase tomorrow. A scout from the majors is coming to the house. It's a big deal. Dad's setting up the cage. Caleb, I can't. I don't care what you have, he snaps. Mom needs the car to go get my supplements, and Dad needs you here to handle the food and drinks for the scouts. He wants you to serve them. Be here at 9. Serve them. The words come out in a choked whisper. I can't, Caleb. I have a critical doctor's appointment. It's important. A heavy, impatient sigh gusts through the speaker, the sound of a man inconvenienced by a gnat. How important? You sick? Got a cold? I don't know yet. It's at the hospital, with a specialist. The hospital, fine, reschedule it. They're just doctors. I can't just reschedule it, Caleb. I say, my voice trembling, hating myself for it. It's oncology. I've waited months for this. There's a pause. Not a pause of concern, but of calculation. Oncology, huh? Look, that sounds rough, but this is my career, Astrid. This is everything. My one shot. Are you really going to screw this up for me over a maybe? You've always been selfish, always making things difficult. Cancel it. I'm not canceling it. Cancel it, he roars, the sudden spike in volume, making me flinch, my whole body tensing. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is my life. Get it together and be here at 9. The line clicks dead. I'm left staring at the window, the silence of my apartment suddenly feeling cold and fragile, the city lights blurring through the tears I refuse to let fall. My hand is shaking so hard I can barely grip the steering wheel. The drive to my parents' house is only 15 minutes, but it feels like a crawl through wet cement. Every second is an argument in my head. Guilt. The word is a thick, choking poison. He's my brother. This is his life. I've been conditioned for 28 years to believe his dreams are the only ones that matter. If I don't show up, if this scout leaves disappointed, it will be my fault. I will be, as he said, selfish. Self-preservation. The word is a foreign language I'm only just learning to speak. Oncology. A specialist. Critical. My body is screaming a warning, a terror that coiled in my stomach the moment Dr. Harris's office called. This isn't a cold. This isn't something you just reschedule. This is my life. The conflict tears me in two. I pull up to the curb, not even bothering with the driveway. The house looks the same as it always has, perfect lawn-trimmed hedges, the looming cage-like netting of the batting cage visible over the fence. It's a shrine, and I'm the heretic. I walk in without knocking. The air is thick with the smell of stale coffee and my father's anxious energy. They're in the kitchen. Caleb is pacing already in his pristine white baseball pants, radiating restless, narcissistic energy. My mother is frantically arranging deli meats on a platter, her back rigid. My father is wiping down the already spotless granite countertop. They all stop when I enter. Finally, my mother snaps, not looking at me. The scouts will be here in 40 minutes. Take the veggie tray out of the fridge and put it on the silver platter, not the plastic one. I'm not staying, I say. My voice is thin, but it's there. 3 sets of eyes snap to me. Caleb's are narrowed in disbelief. What did you just say? I told you, Caleb, I have my appointment. The one I can't miss. I just came to tell you in person. You came here, Caleb says, walking toward me slowly. To tell me no. Today. Astrid. My father warns, his voice taking on that familiar tone of forced, placating reasonableness. Let's not be dramatic. This is the biggest day of your brother's life. A major league scout in our backyard. Your appointment can wait. No, I say, and this time my voice is stronger. I look at him, at all of them. It can't wait. It's 8:30. My appointment is at 10. I'm leaving. I turn to go. Caleb moves faster than I've ever seen him move off a field. He grabs my arm, his fingers digging into my bicep like steel clamps. You are not walking out that door. Let go of me, Caleb. You selfish bitch, he hisses, his face inches from mine. You've always been this way, always trying to ruin things for me. That's not true. I try to rip my arm away, fueled by a surge of panic and adrenaline. You're the one who... The sound is a crack. It's sharp and wet, echoing off the tile backsplash. My head snaps to the side, my hair whipping across my face. A white-hot, blinding flash explodes behind my eyes. My cheek is numb, then it burns a deep, throbbing fire. My ear rings. I can taste the metallic tang of blood where my teeth cut the inside of my lip. I'm stunned, frozen, waiting for the sound of my mother screaming at him, my father tackling him, anything. The silence that follows is heavier, more violent than the slap itself. I slowly turn my head back. Caleb is breathing hard, his chest puffed out, fists still clenched. My mother hasn't moved. She's staring at my face, but her expression isn't horror. It's annoyance. Caleb, for God's sake, she says, her voice a sharp whisper. Look what you did. What if the scouts see that? Go put some ice on her face, Richard. Use a dish towel. We can't have her looking like that when they arrive. My father. Richard just sighs like I'm an inconvenience. Astrid, you shouldn't have provoked him. You know the pressure he's under. Now look at this mess. I look from my father's enabling gaze to my mother's cold calculation. I look at Caleb, who is already starting to smirk, the rage fading, replaced by the smug satisfaction of dominance. The slap didn't break me. They did. The full, crushing emotional weight of 28 years of betrayal lands on me at once. They are not just neglectful. They are not just biased. They are corrupt. They are hollow. They saw his violence, and their only concern was how it would affect his showcase. My pain was a logistical problem to be managed. My suffering was an aesthetic inconvenience. I am invisible. The string that has tethered me to them my entire life, the one I've been desperately, stupidly trying to keep intact, doesn't just fray. It vaporizes. I don't say a word. I don't cry. I feel nothing but a sudden, terrifying coldness. I straighten my spine. I look each of them in the eye, one by one, holding their gaze until they look away. Caleb scoffs, but he takes a step back. I turn deliberately and walk out the front door, the click of the lock behind me sounding as final as a gavel. I get into my car. I sit, my hands gripping the wheel, my cheek pulsing with a pain that is already being dwarfed by a new, sharper realization. I look at myself in the rearview mirror. The red handprint is already darkening a stark, angry brand against my pale skin. This is it. This is the point of no return. I have a 10:00 a.m. appointment that could decide my life, but that's not the only battle I'm facing. I am completely and utterly alone. I have my health to fear, and I have a family I now know is capable of anything. The oncology wing of St. Jude's is painted in soft, calming blues that do nothing to calm me. The air is dry, smelling of antiseptic and faint powdered soap. Every soft ding of the elevator, every squeak of a nurse's shoe on the polished linoleum echoes in my ringing ear. I sit with my hands clenched in my lap, my purse held like a shield. I'm acutely aware of the darkening, swollen handprint on my cheek. I'd tried to cover it with makeup, but it just looked like a bad paint job, a grotesque purple-red shadow. I feel the stares of the other people in the waiting room, their own fear mingling with a quiet curiosity about mine. I've never felt more alone. I am a woman with a potential illness, a fresh bruise from her brother's hand, and not a single soul on earth to call. I am an island, and the tide is rising. Astrid Collins. The voice is gentle. I look up. A woman in a white coat with kind, tired eyes and hair pulled back in a simple clip is holding a tablet. I'm Dr. Elaine Harris. I follow her into an exam room. The vulnerability is suffocating. The paper crinkles under me on the exam table. It feels thin, just like my composure. Dr. Harris is professional, warm, asking me about my symptoms, my history. Her eyes drift just once to my cheek. You had a fall, she asks, her tone neutral, all compassion. I flinch. Something like that, I mumble, looking at the floor. I'm clumsy. She doesn't push, but she makes a note on her tablet, and the look in her eye is one I'm not used to belief. Or rather, disbelief. She sees me. She knows. She explains the tests I need, the scans, the blood work. Her kindness is a physical weight, making the betrayal I just ran from feel even sharper. She's a stranger, and she's already shown me more basic human decency than my own mother. After the exam, the scans, and the blood draw, I'm back in the main waiting area, my head swimming with medical jargon and quiet fear. I just want to pay my copay and get back to my apartment. I go to the checkout desk and hand the receptionist my debit card. She swipes it. Her smile tightens. "I'm sorry, Miss Collins, it's been declined." My blood runs cold. "What? No, that can't be. I transferred the money. Try it again." She does. "Declined." I feel a hot flush of embarrassment. "Okay, fine," I say, fumbling for my emergency credit card, the one I keep for car repairs. "Try this." She runs it. Her eyes widen slightly. "This one is also declined. Maxed out." "Maxed out?" I say, my voice rising. "That's impossible. It has a $10,000 limit. I haven't used it in 6 months." I pull out my phone, my hands shaking so badly I can barely type my password. I open my banking app. My checking account, which should have held nearly $4,000, contains $18.31. My savings account, $500. I click on the credit card app. The balance isn't $10,000. It's $10, 540. I scroll through the transactions. Batting cages, USA. Elite Sports Nutrition. Velocity Training Systems. A plane ticket to a showcase in Florida. And then I see it. A new loan. A $20,000 personal loan taken out in my name 2 months ago. The money was deposited into my checking and transferred out the same day. I see new credit card applications, 3 of them all in my name, all opened, maxed, and overdue. The room begins to tilt. It wasn't just my high school paycheck. It wasn't just my college fund. They didn't just take my money. They took my name, my social security number, my future. They've been funding Caleb's entire fraudulent career by systematically destroying my financial identity. This is wire fraud. This is identity theft. This is a federal crime. The papers my father had me sign last year, tax forms, he'd said, I'd signed them in a rush, the stolen mail, the sudden insistence that I simplify my life by letting them help with my accounts. It wasn't help. It was a hostile takeover. I'm drowning right here in the brightly lit, softly blue waiting room. My independence, my apartment, my job, it was all an illusion. I'm in debt I can never repay. They've ruined me. I'm still staring at the screen, a low, keening sound in my ears, when Dr. Harris quietly sits down in the chair next to me. "Astrid," she says softly. I look up, my face a mask of cold, agonizing realization. She saw my name on the payment issue list. "Are you in trouble?" she asks, her voice low. "Is someone doing this to you?" Her question breaks something deep inside. The tears that didn't fall at my mother's coldness, that didn't fall at Caleb's violence, now stream down my face. But they aren't tears of sadness. They are tears of pure, unadulterated ice. "Yes." I whisper the word, tasting like metal. I wipe my face, the sleeve coming away wet. The fear for my health, the terror of the oncology wing, it's all still there, but it's been eclipsed by a new, towering emotion. A cold, clarifying rage. They didn't just push me down. They didn't just hit me. They took a shovel and tried to bury me alive. They tried to erase Astrid Collins. I stand up, my spine rigid. I look at Dr. Harris, this stranger who showed me kindness. "Thank you," I say, my voice hoarse. Can you bill me?" She nods, her expression full of a pained understanding. "We'll figure it out. Take care of yourself, Astrid." I walk out of the hospital into the harsh, indifferent sunlight. I am ruined. I am in debt. I am sick. And I have never been more certain of what I have to do. They think I'm invisible. They think I'm weak. They think I'm their personal resource to be drained and discarded. They're wrong. They didn't just betray me, they gave me a weapon. They gave me a motive. I will not be erased. I will not let them escape. This isn't just about survival anymore. This is about justice. My apartment is no longer a fortress. It's a liability. They have a key. They've been in my mail and my accounts. For all I know, they've been in here. The thought makes my skin crawl. The rage from the hospital has cooled, solidifying into something hard and precise. I'm not a victim anymore. I'm an investigator. My first move is tactical. I go to an ATM, withdraw the last $18.31 from my checking account, and buy a burner phone from a 7-Eleven. I use the last of my physical cash, a few $100s I kept hidden in a copy of Moby Dick, to pay for a room at a no-name extended stay motel on the other side of town. The room smells like bleach and old cigarettes, but it's anonymous. It's safe. My apartment, my life is now a crime scene. I turn off my real phone and leave it in the glove box of my car parked 2 blocks away. Then I go to a 24-hour print shop. For 6 hours I sit at a rented computer terminal fueled by vending machine coffee, and I dive. I download every bank statement, every credit card bill, every loan application for the last 5 years. The fraud is staggering. It's meticulous. My father's signature is on transfers I never authorized. My mother co-signed for loans in my name using a forged power of attorney. They've been siphoning my salary, redirecting my tax returns, and using my credit score as their personal bank. I printed all the stack of paper, growing into a tombstone for the life I thought I had. But it's not enough. I remember Dr. Harris's pained expression. On a whim, I had asked her, "Who helps people when this happens?" She'd looked at me, really looked, and scribbled a name on a piece of prescription pad paper. Gideon Cole. He's unconventional, but he's the best. Tell him I sent you. Gideon Cole's office isn't downtown. It's a small, second-floor walk-up over a pawn shop. The man himself is as unassuming as the office, tall, thin, with a mind that moves like a steel trap. He doesn't wear a suit. He listens. I lay out my story, the bruise on my cheek, the stack of financial documents. I don't cry. I just state the facts. He sips his black coffee and looks at the paperwork. "This isn't just family drama, Ms. Collins," he says, his voice quiet but sharp. "This is conspiracy to commit wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and multiple counts of bank fraud. These are federal offenses. Serious ones." He explains the laws, the procedures, what investigators look for. "They think you're weak," he says, tapping the stack of papers. "They think you're their emotional punching bag and their piggy bank. We need to prove you are neither. You need to keep documenting, but you also need to cut them off, completely." That night, from my burner phone, I block their numbers. All of them. I deactivate every social media account. I become a ghost. The silence is deafening, but it's a relief. For the first time, my phone isn't a potential landmine. I start to build a new tiny life. I call my boss at the logistics firm, tell him I have a severe family medical emergency, and request an unpaid leave of absence, routing my last paycheck to a new bank account at a different credit union. I call Dr. Harris and thank her. That small support network, a doctor and a lawyer, is more than I've had my entire life. I spend my days in the motel room organizing the evidence into a comprehensive timeline for Gideon. The work is agonizing. Every receipt for elite sports nutrition is a meal I skipped. Every velocity training charge is a car repair I put off. But with every new entry in my spreadsheet, I feel a piece of my power returning. It's no longer just a violation, it's Exhibit A. Then I find the thread that unravels everything. It's a recurring charge, $500 a month, to a wellness clinic I've never heard of. I Google the name. The first hit is a news article about a local doctor sanctioned for distributing unprescribed testosterone and human growth hormone. Performance-enhancing drugs. My blood turns to ice. Caleb isn't just a prodigy. He's a cheat. I keep digging, scrolling through Venmo transactions linked to one of the fraudulent bank accounts. I find another name, a regular payment to a kid at the local university. A quick search reveals his reputation. He's a fixer, notorious for taking online classes and writing term papers for student athletes. This isn't just financial abuse. This is a multi-layered conspiracy to manufacture a superstar. They didn't just steal my money to fund his dream. They used it to buy his talent, his grades, his entire facade. This is the opening. This is the vulnerability. They haven't just committed crimes against me. They've committed crimes against the system they worship. And I have the receipts. The showcase is held at the University Stadium, a cathedral of manicured green grass and red clay. The air is electric, smelling of hot dogs, leather, and ambition. I'm in the top row of the bleachers, sunglasses on a baseball cap pulled low, just another face in a small crowd of families and industry hopefuls. Below on the field, the scouts sit in a silent, judgmental row, behind home plate clipboards on their knees, radar guns in hand. They look like gods deciding a mortal's fate. My fate, however, is already sealed. I sent the package 2 days ago. An anonymous priority mail envelope sent from a post office 3 towns over. Inside printouts of the clinic receipts, the Venmo transactions to the fixer, and an unsigned note with one simple question: is this the kind of player you want in the league? I sent identical packages to the league's central compliance office and to 2 of the state's most aggressive sports journalists. I'm not here to watch a game. I'm here to watch a controlled detonation. Caleb steps up to the plate. He looks the part, I'll give him that. He's a machine built of muscle and arrogance, his pristine white uniform practically glowing. He swings and the crack of the bat is definitive. The ball soars a white speck against a perfect blue sky, clearing the left field wall. The few families in the stands cheer. The scouts nod, scribbling notes. My father, standing by the dugout, looks like he might burst with pride. Caleb rounds the bases, arrogant, pointing to the sky, accepting the high fives from other prospects. This is his moment. This is what my life was strip-mined to pay for. As he steps into the dugout, it happens. 2 men in dark suits, faces impassive, walk directly onto the field. They don't look at the coaches. They walk straight to Caleb. The low hum of the stadium dies. Every head turns. I watch as one man speaks his back to me. Caleb's body language shifts. The proud athlete pose dissolves. He puffs out his chest, arguing, gesturing wildly. The second man doesn't argue. He just points to Caleb's equipment bag. A coach steps forward, says something, and the first man flashes a badge, not police, but league credentials. An official inquiry. It's better than I hoped. They unzip his bag. The scouts are all standing now, watching intently. The man pulls out a small insulated lunch pack. Caleb lunges for it. The second man puts a firm hand on his chest, stopping him. They open it. Even from here I can see the small glass vials. I can see the foil blister packs of pills. A camera flashes from the press box, then another. The journalists I emailed are here, and they just got their money shot. Caleb's face is a mask of pure primal rage. He screams something, shoves one of the officials. That's the moment it ends. The scouts snap their clipboards shut. They don't run, they just leave, walking in a calm, disgusted line out of the stadium. The showcase is over. The dream is dead. By the time I get back to the stale air of my motel room, it's a firestorm. The video is everywhere. Prospect meltdown, the banners scream. Caleb Collins detained at showcase for banned substances. His face twisted in rage is the lead image on every local sports page. The results are pending, but the clinic's name is already leaked, and the university is launching an internal investigation into his academic eligibility. Then the public unraveling begins. A local news van camps outside my parents' house. My mother appears on the porch, her face a perfect portrait of the devastated matriarch. She speaks of immense pressure, of one terrible mistake, of a good boy who just wanted to succeed. But the reporter, a sharp woman I recognize from the local nightly news, isn't asking about the drugs. "Ma'am," she says, holding the microphone forward, "we've uncovered significant financial irregularities tied to Mr. Collins's training. Can you comment on the multiple high-interest loans and credit cards opened in your daughter's name, Astrid Collins? We were told she hasn't lived here in years. My mother's face freezes. The mask of grief cracks. That is a private family matter. Is it true, the reporter presses, that you and your husband are being investigated for fraud? My father bursts out the front door, his face purple. Get off our property, he roars, shoving the cameraman. The camera tips the footage, spinning wildly, capturing my father's contorted, violent face. It's not the face of a supportive dad. It's the face of a cornered animal. I sit on the edge of the stiff motel bed, watching the clip play on a loop on my laptop. I don't feel happy. I don't feel victorious. I just feel empty. It's the quiet, hollow feeling of a necessary task completed. This isn't joy. This is just the consequence. My burner phone, silent for a week, suddenly buzzes on the nightstand. An unknown number. I let it ring, the vibration sounding unnaturally loud in the small room. It clicks to voicemail. A second later, a notification lights up the screen. I press play. You did this? Caleb's voice, a raw, shredded scream. You worthless, jealous bitch. We know it was you. We're suing you. We're telling everyone what you did. You'll pay for this. You'll pay. There's a fumbling sound, and then my mother's voice, cold as ice, laced with a terrifying saccharine plea. Astrid, stop this. You're destroying your brother. You're destroying this family. You are killing your father. Think about what you're doing. We can fix this. Just call us back. Call us back or you'll regret it. The threat hangs in the air, a familiar poison. But the strings are cut. They have nothing left to pull. The public humiliation was just the fuse. Gideon and I were building the bomb. While the media feasted on the scraps of Caleb's career, we were in his small, quiet office, meticulously assembling the federal case. The threats on my burner phone were forwarded to Gideon, logged and ignored. They were the frantic death rattles of an animal caught in a trap. The drug bust is messy, but it's a sideshow, Gideon explained, stacking the evidence into neat labeled binders. It's a morals charge. What we have here. This is systemic. This is calculated. This is what puts people away for years. Our strategy wasn't emotional. It was mathematical. We had the forged loan applications, my signature clearly traced next to my father's legitimate one. We had the bank transfer records showing my paychecks being rerouted minute by minute into accounts I'd never opened. We had the tax returns they'd filed on my behalf, claiming dependents I didn't have, all to get a refund they immediately funneled to Caleb's nutrition program. Identity theft, wire fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy. The words felt huge, impersonal, but the details were agonizingly personal. Every page I initialed for Gideon was a fresh cut. This wasn't just an abstract legal fight. It was the final formal act of severing my own family. Signing the federal affidavit swearing under penalty of perjury that, yes, Richard and Lorraine Collins stole my identity felt like signing a death certificate. Not for them, but for the daughter I used to be, the one who desperately, pathetically just wanted them to see her. The emotional weight was crushing. There was no joy in this, only a grim surgical necessity. This was the only way to stop the infection. Gideon filed the case, handing our meticulously organized binders to a U.S. attorney who specialized in complex financial crimes. The state's case against Caleb for the performance-enhancing drugs was absorbed into the larger federal investigation. It was no longer about a kid cheating at baseball. It was about a criminal enterprise that used baseball as its cover. The arrests didn't happen with the drama of a television show. There were no sirens, no public confrontation. I wasn't there. I was in my motel room staring at the wall when Gideon called. It's done, he said, his voice flat. They were indicted this morning. Federal agents picked them up at the house. They're being processed. My mother, my father, in handcuffs. The image wouldn't form in my mind. The news hit the local circuit an hour later, and this time it eclipsed the sports story entirely. Local baseball prodigy's parents arrested in sweeping federal fraud case. The charges were read, the staggering dollar amount, hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen in my name, was made public. The media connecting the dots from my father's violent outburst on the lawn painted a picture of a family rotted from the inside out. Caleb's fate was sealed. The MLB issued a lifetime ban. The university, facing its own scandal for his fraudulent academics, not only revoked his scholarship, but expelled him. He was named as a co-conspirator in the fraud case, the primary beneficiary of the stolen funds. His entire future, the one they had mortgaged my life to build, was annihilated in the stroke of a federal pen. And I just felt quiet. I paid the motel bill and moved into a small, furnished studio apartment in a building with a security guard. I started my job again, my boss accepting my family emergency explanation with a kind, unquestioning nod. I walked to work. I bought groceries. I paid my new bills from my new clean bank account. I existed. I found a new calm, a strange sense of agency in the mundane. I had survived. I had lived in the damp, dark basement of their ambition for 28 years, and when they finally tried to bury me, they hadn't realized I was a seed. My resilience wasn't loud. It was the simple, stubborn act of continuing to breathe. The legal process dragged on, a slow grinding machine. The evidence was so overwhelming that my parents' lawyers pushed for a plea bargain. They pled guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of aggravated identity theft. Caleb pled guilty to conspiracy. The threat stopped. The noise stopped. There was only silence. Then 6 months after the arrests, Gideon called again. The sentencing is next Tuesday, 10:00 a.m., Judge Allister. Do I have to be there? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. No, Gideon said gently. You've done your part. Your victim impact statement was more than enough. I hung up. I knew I had a choice. I could stay in my quiet, safe apartment. I could let the machine finish its work without me. But I couldn't. I needed to see the lock turn. I needed to be there when the shadow I had lived under my entire life was finally officially put away. I pick out my clothes, a simple dark blue dress. I am not going as a victim. I am not going as a daughter. I am going as a witness. As I walk toward the federal courthouse, the air feels thin and cold. This is the last step. I'm fully aware with every click of my heel on the pavement that this is the final, absolute end. This is the moment I find out what my life and theirs is worth. The federal courtroom is heavy with the smell of old wood floor wax and a stale, anxious silence. I sit in the last row, a ghost in a blue dress. Gideon is at the prosecutor's table, but I am here alone by choice. I watch the back of their heads, Richard, Lorraine, and Caleb. They are pale, diminished shadows of the tyrants who ruled my life. My father's suit hangs off his frame. My mother's hair is thin and gray. Caleb is gaunt, the narcissistic energy that filled every room now shrunken into a tight, vibrating ball of fear. They are just small, desperate people exposed under the harsh fluorescent lights of federal justice. I am no longer invisible. I am the reason they are here. The judge reads my victim impact statement, not the one I wrote in anger, but the one I wrote in the cold, clear light of facts. The one that simply listed the dollars, the dates, the lies, and the cost. Not the emotional cost, they would never understand that, but the financial ruin, the theft of my identity, and my future. Then Judge Allister speaks. His voice is deep, devoid of pity. Richard Collins, for the conspiracy to commit wire fraud and aggravated identity theft, you are sentenced to 60 months in federal prison. My father slumps, a hollowed-out man. Lorraine Collins, for your active role in this conspiracy and the egregious breach of trust against your own daughter, you are sentenced to 48 months in federal prison. My mother makes a small sound, a stifled, pathetic whine. It is the first sound of real suffering I have ever heard from her. Finally, the judge turns to Caleb. Caleb Collins, as the primary beneficiary of this criminal conspiracy, and for your own counts of fraud and conspiracy, your athletic career is over. Your academic record is void. Your future is permanently altered. You will serve 5 years of probation, pay your share of the court-ordered restitution, and you will carry this felony conviction for the rest of your life. It is a financial and social execution, a life sentence just of a different kind. As the marshals lead them out, my mother turns her eyes scanning the gallery desperate. She sees me. Her face contorts not in remorse, but in a final venomous flash of hatred. I just look back, my expression blank until the door closes behind her. I feel no triumph. There is no urge to cheer. The catharsis is not a surge of joy, but a slow, profound release. It is the feeling of a 28-year-old migraine finally dissolving. It is the unclenching of a fist I didn't know I was still holding. It is not victory. It is just over. I walk out of the courthouse into the bright afternoon, the sun feeling unnaturally warm on my face. I am free. The word is so big it has no meaning, so I just walk. I don't drive. I just walk, my feet taking me on a path I didn't consciously choose through neighborhoods I haven't seen in months. I find myself on their street. The old street. I stop across from the house. It's empty. A stark white, bank-owned sign is hammered into the lawn, which is already overgrown with weeds. The windows are dark, but the most important thing is the backyard. The looming cage-like netting that defined my entire childhood, the symbol of my servitude and his supremacy, is gone. It has been dismantled, sold for scrap. All that remains is a large square patch of dead yellow grass, a scar on the earth. The neighborhood is quiet. A few houses down, kids are riding bikes. A mail truck hums past. The world has moved on. The shadow that consumed my life, that felt so total and suffocating, has simply vanished. It left nothing behind. 2 months later, I sign a lease on a new apartment. A 2-bedroom this time on a quiet tree-lined street. Not a fortress, just a home. The second bedroom is my office, but I put a comfortable chair in it for reading. I spend a Saturday buying a ridiculous, oversized, and ridiculously soft rug. I buy a coffee maker that grinds the beans. I hang a painting I bought at a local art fair. Each small intentional act is a reclamation. I join a community running club that meets on Saturday mornings. I am clumsy and slow, but I finish the run, and my new acquaintances, people who know nothing of my past, clap when I cross the line. I am building a life not from the ashes of the old one, but on new, clean ground. I sit in my new living room, the evening light filtering through the clean windows, a cup of real coffee in my hand. I survived. The word settles on me. It wasn't just the fight, the planning, the case. It was the 28 years of quiet endurance. I survived the basement, the invisibility, the slap. I survived them. And in surviving, I found a strength I never knew I had. This new life is the foundation built not on their approval or my rebellion, but on my own hard-won self-respect. The sun hits my balcony at 7:00 a.m., sharp and bright, filtering through the leaves of a tomato plant I've somehow managed to keep alive. I sit in my comfortable chair, the one I bought at the art fair, and sip my coffee. It's a simple dark roast, and the smell of it, rich and uncomplicated, is the smell of my morning. A year has passed, a year of quiet, intentional construction. My apartment is my own. My name is my own. My finances, painstakingly rebuilt with Gideon's guidance, and my own relentless budgeting, are stable. The restitution payments, court-ordered and garnished from my parents' prison accounts and Caleb's menial probation job, are a monthly electronic reminder. Not of revenge, but of consequence. I am fully, unassailably independent. The oncology scare, the one that triggered the avalanche, turned out to be just that, a scare. A benign, terrifying mass that required surgery, but not the war I had feared. The true malignancy was my family. Dr. Harris, who I now call Elaine, met me for coffee last week. We sat outside, two women enjoying the autumn air. "You look different," she said, smiling. "Not just the cheek, your eyes. They're not haunted." She was right. The constant low-grade hum of stress that used to live in my jaw is gone. I am no longer a fortress under siege. I am just a person living. I am grounded. That's the word. I feel the floor beneath my feet. I am not braced for the next impact. I am simply here. Human resilience is a strange thing. It's not a single act of defiance, not the one big courtroom victory. It's the thousand quiet daily choices. It's the choice to get up to go for a run, even when it's cold, to pay a bill on time, to say no to a small request at work that crosses a boundary. No is a word I practice. I've learned that boundaries aren't walls you build to keep people out. They are the lines you draw to define where you begin. They are the act of reclaiming the agency that was stolen from me inch by inch. I don't pretend the last 28 years didn't happen. I don't pretend I had a happy childhood. The loss is real. It's a scar, pale and permanent, on my emotional landscape. I didn't just lose my abusers. I lost the idea of a family. I lost the mother I should have had, the father who should have protected me, the brother who should have been my friend. I have had to mourn the family I deserved, but was never given. That grief is a quiet, private thing, but it no longer defines me. I have learned to parent myself to protect that invisible girl who lived in the basement. I am her champion, and I will not let her down. I am no longer invisible. My connections now are meaningful, built on honesty and mutual respect. My friends from the running club who know me only as Astrid, the one with the sarcastic laugh. Gideon, who still sends a text every few months that just says, "Checking in. Stay strong." Elaine, who showed me kindness when I was a bruised and terrified stranger. This is my community. This is my family, the one I chose, the one I earned. I finish my coffee and stand stretching in the warm patch of sunlight. I look out over the quiet, tree-lined street. There is no looming shadow of a batting cage. There are no stadium lights blotting out the stars. There is just the clean, clear light of morning. My past is not a prison. It's a lesson in moral clarity. They thought I was weak, a resource to be consumed. They were wrong. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the refusal to be paralyzed by it. I took my life back piece by painful, deliberate piece. I celebrate that. I celebrate the quiet, the stability, the profound, permanent liberation of knowing with absolute certainty that I am finally and forever free. And with that, Astrid finally closes the door on her past, breathing in the air of a life that is truly her own. What did you think of her long path to justice? We read every single comment and want to know your thoughts. If you appreciate complex stories of resilience, be sure to subscribe. Thank you for listening. This has been a story from Radiance. We'll see you next time.